The communication dish on Nexus Prime Station crackled to life. Static filled the air before a clear human voice came through the speakers. "This is Ambassador Taemin of Earth. We are here for the meeting. Commander Velthara of the Valorian." Council straightened her elegant form. Her blue skin shimmered under the station lights. She had seen many first contacts before. New species always acted the same way. They were nervous, they were scared. They begged for protection. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," Velthara said into her communicator. "Please dock at Bay 7. Through the viewing window, she watched a small ship approach. It looked simple. Basic metal hull. No fancy decorations. No weapons that she could see. Just like every other primitive species that found faster than light travel. The airlock hissed open 20 minutes later. 3 humans walked into the station. They looked around with curiosity, not fear. Taemin stepped forward first. He was tall with short black hair. He wore a simple blue uniform with small metal badges. Behind him walked a woman in a green military outfit. Her name tag read Hee-Jin. The third human was shorter and carried a large toolbox. His badge said, Dong-Wu, thank you for meeting us, Taemin said with a smile. "This is exciting for our people." Velthara nodded. Standard greeting. She had heard it 1,000 times before. "Follow me to the council chamber," she said. As they walked through the station corridors, other alien species watched the humans. The Cathani scholars whispered among themselves. Their gray skin wrinkled with thought. The Draktar warriors stood at attention. Their red eyes followed every human movement. "Your station is very nice," Hee-Jin said, looking at the walls. "Good design, strong construction." "It has served us well for 200 years, Velthara replied. "Only 200? Dong-Wu asked. "We build things to last at least 500 years. Basic safety rule." Velthara glanced at him. Most new species were impressed by the station's age. Humans seemed to think it was too young. They entered the main council chamber. It was a large room with seats arranged in a circle. Representatives from 12 different species sat waiting. The room fell silent as the humans entered. "Please sit here," Velthara said, pointing to 3 empty chairs. Taemin sat down and looked around the room. So many different people. This is wonderful. Velthara took her place at the speaker's podium. "We are here to welcome Earth to our galactic community. Tell us about your world." "Earth is our home," Taemin began. "We have about 8 billion people. We live on one planet, but we have colonies on our moon and on Mars. We just figured out how to travel between stars 5 years ago." The council members nodded. This was normal. New species always started with one world. "What about your military?" asked Groktar, the Draktar representative. His voice was deep and rough. "How do you protect yourselves?" Hee-Jin shifted in her chair. "We have basic defenses, nothing special." "What kind of defenses?" Groktar pressed. "Well," Hee-Jin said, thinking, "we have some nuclear weapons, maybe 60,000 of them, also kinetic bombardment platforms around Earth, and we are working on antimatter bombs." The room went very quiet. Velthara felt her heart skip a beat. 60,000 nuclear weapons? Most species had maybe 10 or 20 before they learned better ways to fight. 60,000? Whispered Zekhan, the Cathani scholar. "Did you translate that correctly?" "Yes," Hee-Jin said. "Is that a lot?" "We thought it was pretty basic. Just enough to keep our planet safe." Velthara looked at her notes. When the Valorians reached space, they had exactly 12 nuclear weapons. They thought that was plenty. "What about your kinetic platforms?" Groktar asked. His red eyes were wide. "Oh, those are simple," Hee-Jin replied. "We drop big metal rods from space. They hit really hard. We have about 300 platforms around Earth. Each one has 50 rods." Taemin nodded. "Very clean. No radiation. Good for the environment." The council members looked at each other with worried faces. Kinetic bombardment was considered an advanced weapon. Most species never built them. And antimatter? Velthara asked in a small voice. "Still working on that," Dongwu said cheerfully. Hard to store safely, but we think we will figure it out soon, maybe in 5 years. Velthara made a note. Most species took 50 years to develop antimatter weapons, if they ever did. Tell us about your ships, said another council member. We only have a few, Taemin admitted. This one we came in and maybe 20 others. We are not very good at space travel yet. The aliens relaxed a little. Only 20. Ships was not very many, but each ship has good shields and weapons, Hyejin added. Basic safety equipment. What kind of weapons? Groktar asked. Plasma cannons, missile launchers, some laser arrays. Nothing fancy, Hyejin said. Oh, and each ship carries a few nuclear mines, in case we need to make a quick exit. The room was silent again. Nuclear mines were military weapons, not safety equipment. Suddenly, alarms started blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed on the walls. Life support failure in Section 12, a voice announced over the speakers. All personnel evacuate immediately. Velthara stood up quickly. We must end this meeting. The station is in danger. What is wrong? Dongwu asked, standing up with his toolbox. The air recycling system broke, Velthara explained. If we cannot fix it, everyone in that section will die. How long do they have? Dongwu asked. Maybe 30 minutes before the air becomes toxic, Velthara said. Can I look at it? Dongwu asked. Velthara stared at him. You want to help? Sure. I fix things. It is what I do. But our best engineers need at least 6 hours to repair life support systems, Velthara said. Dongwu shrugged. Maybe your engineers think too much. Sometimes simple fixes work best. Against her better judgment, Velthara led Dongwu to Section 12. The other humans followed. So did several curious council members. They found the engineering bay filled with smoke. Valorian technicians stood around a large broken machine. Sparks flew from damaged circuits. The main processor unit is destroyed, one technician explained. We need to order replacement parts. It will take days. Dongwu walked up to the machine. He opened his toolbox and pulled out what looked like a small hammer and some wire. What are you doing? The technician asked. Fixing it, Dongwu said. Simply. He crawled under the machine. Banging sounds came from inside. Then some scraping. Then silence. Try it now. Dongwu called out. The technician pressed a button. The machine hummed to life. Clean air began flowing through the vents. How? Did you do that? The technician asked in amazement. Dongwu crawled out from under the machine. The problem was simple. A wire came loose and the computer got confused. I just connected it differently so the computer could think straight again. He showed them his work. Instead of replacing the expensive processor, he had rewired the system to bypass the damaged parts. It was crude, but effective. This should not work, the technician said, staring at the wiring. You violated 17 safety protocols. But it does work, Dongwu said. And it is safe. I made sure. Velthara looked at the repair. In 10 minutes, this human had solved a problem that would have taken her best engineers hours to fix and days to get parts for. They walked back to the council chamber in silence. The other aliens whispered among themselves. Thank you for helping us, Velthara said as they sat down again. No problem, Dongwu said. We help our friends. Friends. Velthara realized that humans already considered them friends. Most knew. Species spent years trying to prove they were worthy of friendship. We should discuss your application for council membership, Velthara said. That would be nice, Taemin said. We want to be good neighbors. As the meeting continued, Velthara found herself more and more confused. These humans had weapons that could destroy worlds. They had technology that worked in ways that should not be possible. They could solve complex problems in minutes. But they acted like none of this was special. They talked about world-ending weapons like they were talking about garden tools. They fixed impossible problems like they were changing light bulbs. When the meeting ended, the humans shook hands with everyone. They smiled and promised to stay in touch. After they left, the council chamber erupted in worried voices. Did you hear what they said about nuclear weapons? 60,000, that is insane. And kinetic bombardment platforms. How did that engineer fix our life support so quickly? Velthara called for quiet. We need to think about this carefully, she said. She looked around the room at the worried faces of the galactic community's leaders. For the first time in her long career, she was not sure what humanity represented. Were they dangerous? Were they peaceful? Were they incredibly advanced? Or just lucky? One thing was certain. The galaxy had never encountered a species quite like humanity before, said since the humans visited Nexus Prime. In the war rooms of the Draktar Empire, General Kolvek stood before a large star map. Red dots marked Draktar ships across the galaxy. A small yellow dot showed Earth's location. The humans need to learn their place, Kolvek growled to his officers. Every new species must be tested. His aide, Commander Raxtal, nodded. How many ships should we send? 12, Kolvek said. A full patrol fleet. Enough to show strength, but not enough to start a real war. The Draktar had done this test many times before. New species always reacted the same way. They would see the ships and panic. Then they would beg for mercy. Finally, they would agree to pay tribute to the Empire. What if they fight back? Raxtal asked. Kolvek laughed. With what? They said they only have 20 ships. We can destroy them easily if needed. The Draktar fleet left 2 days later. 12 heavy cruisers, each one bigger than the human ship that visited Nexus Prime. They jumped to faster-than-light speed and headed for the Sol system. Meanwhile, on Earth Defense Station Alpha, Captain Bora sat in her command chair drinking coffee. The station orbited Earth high above the Pacific Ocean. Through the large windows she could see the blue planet below. Captain, called Lieutenant Subin from the communication station, we have incoming ships, 12 contacts at the edge of the system. Bora set down her coffee. Are they friendly? Unknown. No response to our greeting messages, Subin replied. Let me see them, Bora said. The main screen showed 12 dark ships moving slowly toward Earth. They were big and had many weapons. Their design was clearly military. Bora said, studying the ships. Looks like someone wants to test us. Should we call for backup? Asked Commander Jin Ho from the weapons station. Backup? For 12 ships? Bora laughed. That seems like overkill. She turned to her crew. This looks like a standard intimidation run, probably that Draktar species we heard about. They like to scare new neighbors. On the Draktar flagship, General Kolvek watched his sensors. The human planet looked peaceful. Only a few small stations in orbit. No big fleets, no battle formations. Just as we thought, he told Raxtal. They are weak. Should we send the warning message? Raxtal asked. Yes. Tell them to surrender or face destruction. The message went out across all frequencies. Human ships. This is the Draktar Empire. Your system is now under our protection. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Back on Earth Defense Station Alpha, Bora listened to the message. Her crew looked at her with worried faces. They want us to surrender, Subin said. I heard, Bora replied calmly. Send a message back. Tell them this is human space and they should leave. What if they attack? Jin Ho asked. Bora thought for a moment. If they attack, we will defend ourselves. Standard protocol. She turned to her tactical officer. Sung Ho, what do we have available? Sung Ho checked his screens. Well, we have Defense Platform 7, Platform 12, and Platform 21 in range. All 3 are active. 3 platforms should be enough, Bora said. We do not want to use too much force. These aliens might not know better. The Draktar ships continued moving toward Earth. They spread out in attack formation, their weapons powered up. The humans are not responding properly, Kolvek growled. Prepare to fire warning shots. But before the Draktar could fire, space around them lit up with bright flashes. 3 objects that looked like small moons had appeared from behind asteroids. Each one was covered with weapon ports. What are those? Raxtal gasped. The answer came quickly. Hundreds of energy beams lanced out from the 3 platforms. The beams were not normal laser fire. They were something much more powerful. They cut through space like burning swords. The first Draktar ship simply vanished. 1 second it was there. The next second it was gone. Not destroyed. Not exploded. Just gone. The second ship lasted a little longer. The energy beams hit its shields, and the shields held for almost 2 seconds. Then the shields collapsed, and the ship melted like ice in hot water. "Evasive action," Kolvek screamed. "All ships scatter." But it was too late. The 3 human platforms fired in perfect coordination. Each platform targeted 4 ships. The beams tracked the Draktar vessels as they tried to run. Ship after ship disappeared. Some exploded in bright flashes. Others simply came apart like they were made of paper. The most advanced shields in the Draktar fleet could not stop the human weapons. In less than 5 seconds, all 12 ships were gone. Nothing remained but glowing dust scattered through space. On Earth Defense Station Alpha, the crew stared at their screens in silence. "All targets eliminated," Sung-Ho reported. "No enemy ships remaining." "Good," Bora said, picking up her coffee. Again. "Send a message to Earth Command. Report successful defense against minor incursion." "Minor incursion?" Subin asked. "Captain, we just destroyed 12 warships." 12 ships is not very many," Bora replied. "If they had brought a real fleet, we would have needed to activate more platforms." She turned to Jin-Ho. "Make sure the platforms return to standby mode. We do not want to waste power." "Yes, Captain," Jin-Ho said. Captain, the platforms were only operating at 15% power." 15%? Bora looked surprised. "Why so low?" "Standard safety protocol," Sung-Ho explained. "We are near the asteroid mining fields. Full power might damage the mining equipment." Bora nodded. "Good thinking. We do not want to interfere with civilian operations." News of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. On Nexus Prime, Velthara received the intelligence report with shaking hands. "The entire Draktar patrol fleet was destroyed," she read aloud to the emergency council session. "Time of engagement, 4.7 seconds. Human casualties, 0. Human ships lost, 0. 4 seconds? Whispered Zekhan, the Kathani scholar. "How is that possible?" "The humans used 3 orbital defense platforms," Velthara continued, reading. "Each platform appears to be equipped with energy weapons of unknown type. Power output estimated at..." She paused. "This cannot be right." "What does it say?" demanded Groktar. "The report estimates each platform has more firepower than our entire fleet," Velthara said quietly. The council chamber erupted in worried voices. Groktar stood up. "Impossible. The Draktar fleet was the strongest in this sector." "The report is confirmed by multiple sources," Velthara said. "The humans broadcast the entire battle on their entertainment networks. They called it defense. Exercise 7. Exercise." Groktar's red eyes went wide. They treated a fleet battle like an exercise. Meanwhile, on Earth, news reports were already covering the incident. Reporter Kim Ji-won stood outside Earth Defense Command. "Today's defensive action lasted less than 5 seconds," she told the camera. "Military officials report that 3 orbital platforms successfully protected our system from unknown attackers." She turned to interview Admiral Young-sik, who had come out to speak to the press. "Admiral, was Earth ever in real danger?" Ji-won asked. Young-sik shook his head. "Not really. It was just a small probe by an unfriendly neighbor. Our defense systems handled it easily." "Some people are worried about the use of force," Ji-won said. "We tried to communicate first," Young-sik explained. "When that failed, we defended ourselves. Standard procedure." "Will you be upgrading security?" Ji-won asked. Young-sik looked confused. "Why would we do that? The current systems work fine. Besides, those platforms are old mining equipment. We converted them for defense because they were just sitting there unused." Back on Nexus Prime, Velthara watched the human news broadcast. Her translator was having trouble with some words. Did he say the platforms were converted mining equipment? She asked her aide. That is what the translator says, the aide replied. Velthara sat down heavily. Mining equipment. The humans had destroyed the Draktar's finest fleet with converted mining equipment. She opened a communication channel to the Galactic Intelligence Service. This is Commander Velthara, she said. I need a full analysis of human military capabilities. Priority Alpha. Confirmed, came the reply. What should we focus on? Velthara looked at the tactical display showing where the Draktar fleet had been destroyed. Everything, she said. We need to know everything. As reports flooded in from across the galaxy, one thing became clear. The humans had not been bragging during their first contact meeting. If anything, they had been modest. Their basic defenses had just wiped out 12 warships without breaking a sweat. And according to their own reports, they had barely tried. The galaxy was beginning to realize that humanity might be more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The most frightening part was that the humans did not seem to know it. They talked about destroying fleets like they talked about fixing broken machines. Just another job that needed doing. Velthara stared at the empty space where the Draktar ships had been. She had a feeling this was just the beginning. The War Council of the Kethani Confederation met in their great hall on the planet Zephyr. High Admiral Thokvar stood before a massive hologram showing the Sol system. Around him sat the most intelligent military minds in the galaxy. The Draktar were fools, said General Nalthek, her gray skin wrinkled with thought. They used the wrong approach. Agreed, Thokvar replied. But the humans must learn respect. We cannot allow them to think they can destroy galactic fleets without consequences. The Kethani were known throughout the galaxy for their careful planning. They had won wars through smart thinking, not brute force. Every move was calculated. Every battle was planned perfectly. How many ships do we send? Asked Admiral Vorkath. All of them, Thokvar said simply. The room went silent. All of them meant the Grand Fleet, 200 ships, the largest military force assembled in 300 years. Are you certain? Naltek asked. That seems excessive for one small species. The humans destroyed 12 Draktar ships in 5 seconds, Thokvar explained. They are not small. We must show overwhelming force to make them understand galactic power. He pointed to the hologram. We will jump to the edge of their system in full battle formation. When they see our fleet, they will realize they cannot fight us. Then we negotiate. What if they refuse to negotiate? Vorkath asked. They will not refuse, Thokvar said confidently. No species fights when they are clearly outmatched. The humans may be strong, but they are not stupid. The Grand Fleet assembled. Over the next week, ships came from every corner of Kethani space. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, support vessels. Each one carried the most advanced weapons the Confederation could build. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Junseo sat in his office. At Space Defense Command, he was reading intelligence reports about alien military movements. Sir, said his aide, Commander Ari. Long-range sensors detect a large fleet moving toward our system. Junseo looked up from his papers. How large? 200 ships, sir. They appear to be Kethani. Junseo whistled softly. 200? That is quite a lot. What do our analysts think? Intelligence believes it is a show of force, Ari replied. They probably want to negotiate from a position of strength. Smart, Junseo nodded. The Kethani are supposed to be the smart ones. I respect that approach. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Earth's blue oceans and white clouds. A few orbital stations dotted the space around the planet. If they want to show force, we should respond appropriately, Junseo said. We do not want them to think we are weak. What are your orders, sir? Ari asked. Activate the Sol defense grid, Junseo said. Full defensive formation, and send a message to the Kethani. Tell them they are welcome to talk, but they should not come too close to our planets. Ari looked surprised. The full grid, sir? All 800 platforms? 847 to be exact, Junseo corrected. If they brought 200 ships, they deserve a proper response. The Sol defense grid was humanity's pride and joy. It had taken 50 years to build. Automated battle stations surrounded the entire solar system. Each one was bigger and more powerful than the converted mining platforms that had destroyed the Draktar fleet. One by one, the platforms came online. They had been hiding in asteroids, behind moons, and in the darkness of space. Now they revealed themselves and began moving into position. The Cathani Grand Fleet jumped into the Sol system at the edge of Pluto's orbit. Admiral Thokvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, expecting to see a few small human ships. Instead, his sensors went crazy. "Sir," called his tactical officer, his voice shaking. "I am detecting multiple contacts. Very large contacts." "How many?" Thokvar asked. I cannot get an accurate count, sir. My sensors show over 800 objects. Each one appears to be heavily armed." Thokvar stared at the tactical display. Red dots filled the screen. They surrounded his fleet, completely. His 200 ships looked like a small island in an ocean of red dots. "This cannot be correct," he said. "Run a full sensor sweep." The sweep confirmed what they all feared. 847 battle stations had just revealed themselves around the solar system. Each one was bigger than a Cathani battleship. Each one was pointing weapons at the Grand Fleet. "Sir," the tactical officer whispered, "power readings indicate each platform has more firepower than our entire fleet combined." On the human side, Lieutenant Commander Jae-yoon sat at her post. In the main defense center, she was watching hundreds of screens showing the positions of both fleets. "The alien fleet has stopped moving," she reported to Admiral Junseo. "They are just sitting there." "Probably thinking," Junseo said. 200 ships against 800 platforms. They are trying to decide what to do. "Should we send another message?" Jae-yoon asked. "Yes. Tell them we want to talk peacefully, but remind them to keep their distance from our populated areas." The message went out on all frequencies. On the Cathani flagship, Thokvar listened to the translation with growing horror. "Greetings, Cathani fleet. This is Admiral Junseo of Earth Defense Command. We welcome peaceful discussion. However, please maintain your current distance from our civilian populations. We have activated local defense systems for security. We hope you understand." Local defense systems. The humans called 800 battle stations local defense systems. "Admiral," his communications officer called out. "The humans are asking if we need any assistance. They noticed our ships have stopped moving." Thokvar closed his eyes. "The humans thought the Grand Fleet was broken down and needed help." "Sir," another officer reported. "Long-range sensors detect additional human ships moving in our direction." "How many?" Thokvar asked, though he dreaded the answer. 50 ships, sir. But they are different from anything we have seen before. Much larger, much more advanced. These were humanity's mobile defense fleet. While the platforms protected the solar system, the ships could move anywhere. Each one was designed to fight entire enemy fleets by itself. Back on Earth, Admiral Junseo received updates from his staff. "The Cathani fleet has been sitting still for 2 hours, reported Commander Airi. "No movement, no communications. They are probably planning their negotiation strategy," Junseo said. "Smart people take time to think." "Sir," called Lieutenant Inho from the sensor station. "The alien ships appear to be powering down their weapons." "Good," Junseo nodded. "That shows they want to talk peacefully." What Junseo did not know was that the Cathani were powering down their weapons because they realized fighting was impossible. Thokvar had run the numbers a dozen times. The result was always the same. His fleet would be destroyed in seconds. "Admiral," said General Nalthek over the communication system, "recommend immediate withdrawal. We are completely outmatched." "I know," Thokvar replied quietly, "but we cannot just run away. That would show weakness to the entire galaxy." "Then what do we do?" Nalthek asked. Before Thokvar could answer, another message came from the humans. "Cathani Fleet, this is Earth Defense Command. We notice you have been stationary for some time. Is there a problem with your ships? We can send maintenance crews, if you need help. Maintenance crews. The humans were offering to fix their ships. They want to help us, the communications officer said in amazement. They think we are having technical problems, Thakvar realized. They do not understand we are afraid. He made a decision. Send a reply. Tell them we are having navigation issues. Request permission to withdraw for repairs. It was not technically a lie. They were having issues figuring out how to leave, without looking like cowards. The human response came quickly. Of course, safe travels. If you need anything, please let us know. As the Kethani fleet slowly turned around and left the solar system, Admiral Junseo watched them go. Interesting. People, he said to his staff. They brought a large fleet but wanted to talk peacefully. I respect that. Sir, Jae-yun asked, should we power down the defense grid? Leave it active for now, Junseo replied. But reduce power to minimum levels. No need to waste energy when we are not under threat. Minimum levels, sir? In-ho asked. 20% should be fine, Junseo said. Just enough to keep the systems warm. On the Kethani flagship, sensors detected the human platforms reducing power. Even at 20%, each platform still had enough firepower to destroy multiple Kethani ships. They powered down, Nalthek reported. To what level? Thakvar asked. Still more than enough to destroy us, she replied. As the Grand Fleet jumped to faster than light speed, Thakvar stared at the tactical display. 800 battle stations, 50 mobile ships, all of it controlled by humans who thought they were just being polite. Send a message to Nexus Prime, he ordered. Emergency session, priority alpha. What should the message say? The communications officer asked. Thakvar thought for a long moment. Tell them we need to completely rethink our approach to humanity. What we thought was their full strength was just their local security. Emergency meetings were happening across the galaxy. On every major world, leaders gathered to discuss the same terrifying question. What do we do about humanity? On the Valorian homeworld, Commander Velthera sat in a secure briefing room. Around her were the best military analysts in Valorian space. Computer screens showed data from the recent encounters with humans. The numbers do not make sense, said Chief Analyst Nara Quinn, staring at her calculations. According to our models, humanity should not exist. Explain, Velthera said. Nara Quinn pointed to the screen. Most species develop weapons and defenses slowly. First nuclear weapons, then energy weapons, then space fleets. It takes thousands of years. She highlighted human development. Humans reached space 5 years ago, but they already have weapons that could destroy our entire civilization. Maybe they are lying about their development time, suggested another analyst. No, Nara Quinn shook her head. We have confirmed their timeline. They really did discover faster than light travel 5 years ago. Before that, they were trapped on one planet. Velthara studied the data. So in 5 years, they built 800 battle stations? That is the strangest part, Nara Quinn said. According to intercepted communications, most of those platforms were built for mining asteroids. The humans just converted them. The room fell silent. The idea that humanity's deadliest weapons were converted mining equipment was too bizarre to accept. Meanwhile, on Earth, life continued normally. Dr. Kyung-soo worked in the Xenocultural Studies Department at Seoul University. His job was to help humanity understand alien cultures. Today, he was video calling with representatives from several alien species. They wanted to learn about human culture. Dr. Kyung-soo, said the Valorian representative on the screen. We are curious about human safety protocols. Safety protocols? Kyung-soo smiled. We take safety very seriously. What would you like to know? Your military mentioned basic safety equipment, the Valorian said carefully. Can you explain what you mean? Of course, Kyung-soo replied. Every human ship has emergency supplies. Food, water, air recyclers, medical equipment, and defensive systems in case of danger. What kind of defensive systems? Asked a Kethani representative. Standard stuff, Kyung-soo said. shield generators, weapon systems, escape pods. Each ship also carries emergency beacons that can signal for help across several star systems. The party aliens looked at each other with worried expressions. Dr. Kyung-soo, the Valorian said slowly, when you say weapon systems, what exactly do you mean? Oh, just basic protection, Kyung-soo explained. Plasma cannons for clearing debris. Missile launchers for emergency situations. Each ship has maybe 50 nuclear warheads for really dangerous situations. 50 nuclear warheads is basic protection? The Cathani asked. Well, you never know what you might encounter in space, Kyung-soo said. Better to be prepared. The call ended quickly after that. Kyung-soo wondered why the alien seemed so nervous. In another part of Earth, Dr. So-jin worked at the Global Science Institute. She had just published a paper on improved mining techniques. The paper described new ways to break apart asteroids for valuable materials. Her work had caught the attention of alien scientists. They were requesting copies of her research. Dr. So-jin, her assistant Da-eun said, the Galactic Science Council wants to review your paper before publication. Review it? So-jin looked confused. Why? It is just about mining. They say it contains information that could be dangerous, Da-eun explained. So-jin picked up her paper and read through it. Again, I do not understand. I just described how to use controlled antimatter explosions to break apart large asteroids. It is much more efficient than old methods. What So-jin did not realize was that her improved mining technique could easily destroy entire planets. The aliens were terrified that humans treated planet-killing weapons as casual tools. On Nexus Prime Station, the emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going on for 3 days. Representatives from 47 species had gathered to discuss humanity. They are too dangerous, argued the Draktar representative. They wiped out our fleet like it was nothing. But they are not aggressive, countered the Valorian delegate. They offered to help repair Cathani ships. That makes them more dangerous, not less, said the Cathani representative. They are so powerful they do not even understand why we are afraid. Velthara stood up to address the council. I have been studying humanity for months. I believe they are genuinely peaceful. How can you be sure? Asked the Draktar. Because if they wanted to conquer us, we would already be conquered, Velthara said simply. Their defense grid alone could destroy every fleet in the galaxy. Then what do we do? Asked a small alien from the Zephyrian collective. We learn to live with them, Velthara said. We adapt to having neighbors who could accidentally destroy us while trying to be helpful. Back on Earth, cultural attaché Wu Jin was reading galactic history. He was preparing for upcoming diplomatic meetings. Something in the history books confused him. Da-eun, he called to his colleague. Can you help me understand something? What is it? Da-eun asked. I am reading about the galactic peace treaties, Wu Jin said. They have very specific rules about certain types of weapons. Such as, planet-killing weapons are completely banned. Reality-warping devices are forbidden. Antimatter weapons can only be used in extreme emergencies, Wu Jin read from the treaty. That makes sense, Da-eun said. Those sound very dangerous, but that is what confuses me, Wu Jin said. Why do they need laws against these things? Who would be crazy enough to build planet-killing weapons? Da-eun thought about it. I guess some species are not as responsible as humans. I suppose, Wu Jin said, but it seems like common sense. You do not build weapons that can destroy whole worlds unless you absolutely have to. What Wu Jin did not understand was that humans were the only species who had ever built such weapons, and then decided not to use them. Every other species either never developed them or used them immediately. On the mining station Series 7, engineer Min Jun was working on a new project. Earth needed more raw materials for expanding their space colonies. He had designed a new type of mining robot. The new robots are amazing, he told his team. They can process an entire asteroid in just 6 hours. How do they work so fast? Asked his assistant. They use small fusion reactors to power high-energy cutting beams, Min-jun explained. Very efficient, very clean. What Min-jun did not mention was that each robot carried enough power to level a city. He saw them as simple tools. The aliens saw them as weapons of mass destruction. Across the galaxy, intelligence agencies were collecting every piece of information they could find about humanity. The reports painted a picture that terrified even the bravest military leaders. Humans had weapons that could destroy solar systems. They had defenses that could stop any attack. They had technology that broke the laws of physics. But the most frightening thing was that humans treated all of this as perfectly normal. A human engineer would casually mention building a device that could crack a planet in half. A human scientist would describe reality warping experiments like they were discussing the weather. A human farmer would talk about using antimatter to clear fields. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity was not just another species. They were something completely different. They had power beyond imagination, but they used it for building, not destroying. On Earth, the news was reporting on the latest diplomatic developments. Today, Ambassador Taemin announced that 12 more alien species have requested formal diplomatic relations with Earth, the reporter said. When asked about the sudden interest in human friendship, the ambassador said he was pleased that humanity was making so many new friends. What the reporter did not mention was that those 12 species had rushed to make friends with humanity after seeing what happened to the Draktar fleet. In the final analysis, the galaxy faced a completely new situation. For the first time in galactic history, the most powerful species was also the most peaceful. The question was no longer whether humanity would conquer the galaxy. The question was whether the galaxy could survive being humanity's friend. Because if humans could accidentally destroy fleets while being polite, what would happen if they ever decided to actually help? 6 months after the first emergency council session, Nexus Prime had become the center of a new kind of diplomacy. Species from across the galaxy came not to discuss war or territory, but to figure out how to be friends with humanity. Senior Diplomat Zephyra of the Galactic Council had the most difficult job in the galaxy. She had to create rules for dealing with a species that could accidentally end civilizations while trying to be helpful. The problem is communication, she explained to her staff. When humans say basic equipment, they mean weapons that could destroy our homeworlds. Her aide, a young Valorian named Kelthera, nodded nervously. What do we do about it? We learn their language, Zephyra said. Not their words, but what they really mean. On Earth, Ambassador Tae Young had been promoted to senior representative for galactic affairs. His office in Geneva was constantly busy with alien visitors who wanted to understand humanity better. Today he was meeting with a delegation from the Peaceful Worlds Alliance. They represented 37 species who had never fought a war. Ambassador Tae Young, said their leader, a gentle creature named Whispera. Our worlds are worried about human expansion. Worried? Tae Young looked confused. We have no plans to expand into anyone else's territory. We know, Whispera said quickly, but your normal activities might affect us. Tae Young thought about this. Can you give me an example? Your scientists published a paper about faster space travel, Whispera explained. The technique involves tearing holes in space-time. Yes, the dimensional fold drive. Tae Young nodded. Dr. Haewon's team made good progress on that project. Ambassador, Whispera said carefully, that technique could destroy our entire star cluster if something goes wrong. Tae Young blinked in surprise. Really? I had no idea. Let me contact Dr. Haewon immediately. Within an hour, Dr. Haewon was video calling into the meeting. She was a cheerful woman in her 40s who ran the advanced physics lab at Tokyo University. Dr. Haewon, Tae Young said. Our friends here are concerned about the dimensional fold drive. They say it might be dangerous to nearby star systems. Dangerous? Haewon looked thoughtful. I suppose if we made a really big mistake, we could damage some local spacetime. But we have safety protocols. What kind of safety protocols? Whisperer asked nervously. We only tested in empty space, at least 50 light-years from any inhabited systems, Haiwan explained. And we use computer simulations first to make sure everything is safe. The aliens looked relieved until Haiwan continued. Of course, our computers can only simulate normal physics. The dimensional fold drive works by breaking physics, so we cannot be completely sure what will happen. Whisperer made a small squeaking sound. But do not worry, Haiwan said cheerfully. If something goes really wrong, we have emergency shutdown procedures. The worst-case scenario would only affect maybe 10 or 20 star systems. After the call ended, Taeyong turned to the delegation. See, Dr. Haiwan is very careful about safety. The Peaceful Worlds Alliance left that day with a new understanding of human safety measures. They also began making plans to relocate their populations to the far side of the galaxy. Meanwhile, on the mining world of Kepler 438b, the first joint human-alien colony was taking shape. Human engineer Min Jun worked alongside alien colonists from 6 different species. The terraforming is going very well, Min Jun reported to the project coordinators. We should have a breathable atmosphere in 3 more weeks. The alien colonists were amazed. Most terraforming projects took 50 to 100 years. Humans had turned a dead rock into a garden world in 6 months. How do you work so fast? Asked Velnora, a Valorian scientist. Good equipment, Min Jun said simply. We brought our standard terraforming kit. What Min Jun did not mention was that each piece of equipment in the standard kit was more advanced than anything the aliens had ever seen. The atmospheric processors were powered by miniature fusion reactors. The soil treatment systems used controlled matter conversion. The weather control satellites could redirect hurricanes with thought-controlled interfaces. Min Jun asked Grokvel, a Draktar engineer who had joined the project. Your equipment seems very advanced. How long did it take humans to develop this technology? This old stuff? Min Jun laughed. Maybe 20 years. We are already working on much better systems. The aliens exchanged worried glances. If this was old technology, what were the new systems like? Their question was answered when supply ships arrived from Earth. The new terraforming equipment was so advanced that it seemed like magic. Machines that could create mountains in hours. Devices that could seed entire ecosystems with a single button press. Weather controllers that could create perfect climate conditions across an entire planet. This is impossible, whispered Zekman, the Cathani colony administrator. Not impossible, Min Jun said. Just good engineering. Would you like me to show you how it works? As weeks passed, the alien colonists learned to accept that humans treated miracles as everyday tools. They also learned that humans were genuinely happy to share their impossible technology. When Velnora asked if Valorians could have copies of the atmospheric processors, Min Jun said, Of course. We brought extra ones in case you needed them. When Grokvel requested technical specifications for the fusion reactors, Min Jun handed him a complete manual. These are pretty basic designs, he said. If you want to build better ones, I can show you the advanced versions. Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was adapting to the new reality. They had created the Department of Human Affairs, staffed entirely by volunteers who were considered either very brave or slightly crazy. Commander Velthera had been promoted to head the department. Her job was to translate between human casual conversation and galactic panic. Today's report, she announced to the emergency session. Humans have offered to solve the energy crisis on Draconis Prime. How? Asked the Draconian representative. They want to build a small star next to the planet, Velthera said calmly. The room erupted in alarm. Build a star? According to the human engineer Changmin, it is a simple fusion containment project, Velthara continued. He says they have built 12 artificial stars for their own colonies. Is it safe? Asked the Draconian. Velthara consulted her notes. Changmin says the star will only be hot enough to provide energy and warmth. If there are any problems, they can turn it off with a remote control. The idea of humans building stars and controlling them with remote controls was terrifying. But the Draconians needed energy, and human technology worked. In the end, the Galactic Council created new categories of diplomacy. Traditional diplomacy was for normal species. Human diplomacy was for dealing with beings who could reshape reality while discussing the weather. The galaxy learned new rules. When humans say basic equipment, they mean technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization. When humans offer to help, say yes, but prepare for miracles. When humans say something is safe, it probably is. But their definition of safe includes things that would terrify normal species. When humans say they are being careful, they are preventing disasters that could end multiple civilizations. 1 year after first contact, Fleet Commander Chang Min hosted a celebration on the new joint colony. Representatives from 40 species attended the party. They watched human children play with toys that could terraform planets. They ate food grown by machines that converted empty space into matter. They danced under artificial stars that humans had built for mood lighting. "This is wonderful," said Wispera, who had overcome her fear enough to attend. "I am glad you like it," Changmin said. "We were worried the party might be too boring. We kept all the really impressive technology turned off so we would not overwhelm anyone." Young Mi, his aide, nodded. "We thought about setting off some fireworks, but our fireworks can be seen from 3 star systems away. We did not want to disturb the neighbors." As the party continued, alien guests realized something important. The galaxy no longer needed to fear humanity, but they did need to prepare for the fact that their human friends would casually perform miracles, while apologizing for not doing more. The galaxy had learned to live with gods who thought they were just being good neighbors. And somehow, that was the most human thing of all. The celebration ended with humans and aliens working together to plan new colonies, new projects, and new adventures. The galaxy had never been safer or more exciting. After all, when your friends can build stars and move planets, every day brings new possibilities. The only challenge now was keeping up with humanity's generous desire to help everyone with their basic technology. The galaxy shuddered no longer from fear, but from excitement about what tomorrow might bring.